Welcome back to the After Dinner Leadership Podcast. Have you ever had a manager who's given you their full attention? Have you ever given your team your full attention, a team member your full attention? It's a tricky thing with all the demands, all the different things in our mind, to give someone your attention and help them feel that this is the most important conversation you have this day. Can be a challenging thing. Today's guest, Niels Jensen, has spent his leadership life in tech. He currently heads up the DACH region for a company called C3 AI, Enterprise AI provider. And I love the fact we're able to talk about various stories of his own experience and others that he admires that have been able to give this present focus to their leadership, establishing a really enabling culture by focusing on the one. Take a listen to the stories. I found them inspiring. I hope that you do too. And you're able to take some of this practice into your own world and into the relationships that you have with your team members. And an important little nugget at the end, we reflect on AI and the human connection. Take a listen. If you find it useful, please share it when you talk with others. Pass this along and please enjoy. And a warm welcome around our after dinner leadership table to Niels Jensen. Welcome, Niels.
Hey, Simon. Good to meet you.
And you. And it's great to have you here. And as we said in the intro, you lead the DACH region for C3 AI. And maybe just a quick taster we'll talk about them later, I'm sure. What does C3 AI do?
Good question. We run enterprise AI, basically, the pioneers. We're doing it for 15 years, and we're helping customers to utilize all their data and everything they have to automate, to predict, and to lift the full potential of everything they have available.
Great. It's a huge topic in business today. Perhaps we'll touch on it a little bit later. And so it's great to have you here. Well, let's connect you with the dinner table that we're sitting, this virtual dinner table that we're sitting around. And what food reminds you of your childhood?
Good question. I think it's pasta.
Okay.
We were always, the family was always very busy. And then if nobody would know what to do, we would have pasta. That's pretty much it.
Anything, is a particular variety?
If I'm now, so like really basic, pasta and ketchup.
Okay.
We would eat pasta and ketchup, and then everybody would be fed. You have to know, we're quite tall in my family, and we would eat a lot. And so my mom just basically produced pasta and pasta.
Yeah. We weren't necessarily tall, but we were definitely hungry. And ours was always some form of potato, so it was some potato dish was kind of the staple diet in our home. And as we look back into the past as well, you around 20, 25 years old, what was memorable about you or your circumstances then?
So when I was 20, I just finished school. I remember, maybe quite funny because we're talking English right now, my English teacher called my parents in and said, and it was very concerned about me because she felt like she asked literally if I'm mentally handicapped because I couldn't speak English.
Okay.
And I remember back then that my dad pulled me aside and said, "Hey, Niels, do you have some issues with English?" I said, "Yeah, well, it doesn't work." And then he did the only right thing. He wouldn't complain or would say, "Hey, you need to do some more homework or learn vocabularies or whatever." He basically said, "Hey, why don't you just go over to America and learn English for a while?" And I really appreciated that approach. And so he reached out to some friends and asked if I could come over. And then I stayed for 8 weeks in America, which back then I was a big fanatic of basketball and all those kind of things. Of course I go to America. I love it. And so I went, and I learned English, and now I speak English probably all day long at work. So it's kind of interesting, but I really enjoyed or appreciated how my dad reacted to the concern of my teacher.
Yeah, I love that. And also, I think it's important. I mean, one of the lessons I take from that anyway is the kind of judgments that we can make about somebody's capabilities and the limiting beliefs that we might have about them or what they can do through a very narrow lens. You know, I don't want to be too critical of your teacher. I don't know what she was doing or he was doing. But, you know, to kind of question your mental function.
It's kind of funny,
Yeah,
I think.
yeah.
Maybe she was so concerned and she invested everything in helping me to learn English, and she just literally reached the limit.
Yes.
And then she didn't know. So she reached out to me. So now I speak English, and I would love to. I even know her name. It was Mrs. Otte. And I would love to meet her again, but I never saw her after that.
Right. Great. Thank you. All right. Well, it's our tradition to not spend too long kind of going through your backstory, you know, but actually getting into the leadership lessons that you've learned over years of career. You've spent a lot of that in the tech environment, I would say, and, you know, working for the likes of Adobe and the likes. I would love to hear what your 3 leadership lessons are that you wish you'd learned earlier at a fairly high level, and then we can dip into them in more detail.
Yeah. So, as you said, I always worked in tech. Interesting enough is I always wanted to lead a team. That was my primary goal. From university onwards, I didn't care for the industry I would work in. I wouldn't care for what I would be specializing in, as long as I would be able to lead a team. So somehow I ended up in tech, which I enjoyed. And I worked for Google, and I realized it was really difficult to become a manager quickly.
Yeah.
You have to really walk up the ranks. And so there was an opportunity to join a small company which literally just started their business in Germany. We're 2 people. And so I joined the company, and I remember in the job interview, I said, I don't even care how much you pay me. I just want to make sure that everything that is happening after you hire me happens below me. So just to make sure I become a manager. Maybe the wording wasn't really good, but I wanted to really make sure I can get experience in managing people and leading them. So this is how I ended up in this small company, and we started to hire people, and it was a great experience to have the first job interviews with them and to make a decision, is that the right candidate or not the right candidate. And after a little while, I had a team of roughly 5 people. So I was really excited about it.
Yeah.
And as the work increased and the pressure, and we wanted to really be successful in the German market and rolling out the company here in this region, I realized that the team is not doing what I'm saying. Then they're not following.
Yeah.
And so I'm really concerned, because I end up saying something, and then in the end I'm doing the work. And it's like, did I hire the wrong people, or what did I do wrong, or why is this going this direction? So after a little while of being exhausted on my end, because I feel like I'm carrying the load, I'm doing all the job for all the people, and nobody's doing what they're supposed to be doing. And I'm realizing managing people is not as easy as I thought it would be. I see myself sitting in a team meeting with them, and we're discussing the next week and all the topics. And I realize that I say the following: hey, I came across the following thing. I think we should do this. And everybody's like, yeah, this is an amazing idea, Niels. We fully agree with you. I think we should do it. I felt like I've proposed the job and the task, and they should go and run and do it.
Yes.
Reality is, everybody liked the idea. Nobody did it, because nobody was mandated to and tasked. So I learned the hard way that it's really important to be specific in your language, to be direct, of course, ask if they understood, and if they support this request, and then go forward. By changing my way of talking, taking the conditional out and being precise about it, everybody worked how they're supposed to be working. I thought this is quite cool to see, and the team developed. We were quite successful back then. But being really specific in your language,
Yes.
I think is something really important. And I realized that this is also a cultural thing. So if you, for example, if you talk to an English person, they're always very formal, very indirect, and you have to read between the lines. You never get a yes or no. If you talk to a Dutch person, you get it thrown in your face, and you basically have to just do whatever was said, and there's no doubt about it. You don't even need to interpret what they said, because they said it very clearly. And the Germans are a little bit in the middle, and then the Americans and all those kind of things. So juggling around, but being specific about the task is something I learned as a very valuable case to lead a team, because otherwise they don't know what to do.
I love that. Thank you. And I guess the thing that I want to explore more actually is this appetite to lead the team. Where was that coming from? What was the drive to manage or lead?
I was in the German education system. You have to do an internship. So I went to university. I studied informational science, and I had to do an internship. And so I applied for an internship, and I worked for a German insurance company in the IT department. And I was in the project management office, and they were building their own CRM. It was 2002.
Yep.
So they were inventing CRM for themselves. And so they presented the case and everything. And the whole project was to conceptualize it first, and then they would proceed to build it. And so I was part of it, but I always thought this is not, we're not going the right direction. I really don't like it. And why are we going this way? But I was the intern. I was just supposed to do it. And so after months and months of working, we are presenting in front of the CIO. I always remember. And we're sitting at this table, and the CIO, Dr. Kaufmann, was listening very patiently. And then after everything was presented, he stopped and he said, "Niels," and I was the intern, "what do you think of it?" So I thought, this is absolute rubbish. And I said, well, it's a good concept. We worked on it for months. I think it will be quite promising. He paused and said, "I think it's absolute rubbish." So I wished I was brave enough to say it.
Yes.
And I wasn't. And back then I thought, how can a strong leader should be somebody who can identify, I don't like the foot soldier, and make them feel like so comfortable that they can actually address the real concerns, and then we can solve it together.
Yes.
And I always felt that this is somehow missing, and that's what I wanted to change. And therefore, it was developed in my internship. This was my key goal to achieve, to have an atmosphere where everybody feels comfortable in solving the problem in the most and best and most efficient way.
Great. So you've got this experience that's kind of put this massive marker down that says, look, if I'm going to be joining an organization, so for example, like Google, I don't want to be just a number. I want to try and influence the decision making, create environments where people can actually be honest and solve the real problems.
Yeah.
Am I understanding that right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, super. And so then when you got into that situation, you're hiring in this new organization, you're forming this larger team from just two people. You're realizing the realities of implementing that is a bit tricky if you're vague in your communication. You've got to be very specific in the way that you're talking to get those things done.
Yeah, but then there's this, the difficulty is, or the dilemma, if you are very specific, you can end up in a language which is like, I order you to do the following.
Yes. Yeah.
So how can I be extremely specific about what I would see, but then give them all the freedom to execute upon it? And then if they come back and report, they hopefully have added some of their flavor to it and made it better. And then hopefully they're brave enough to say it. And then hopefully I'm brave enough to say, hey, it's good, but it's not exactly where we're supposed to be. Maybe let's reiterate and then move on.
Well, that might be a nice transition into your second point, actually, around culture. Shall we go there?
Yeah, happy to. So maybe it becomes obvious, but I gain my experience from experiences. I read some books, but I personally, so experiences really drive where I come from. So
yeah, I can hear that.
Manager at Adobe, who was absolutely amazing. He was, so I was running the consulting organization for Germany. He was running it for EMEA. He was a German, but that wasn't the reason for being amazing. He was a very analytical guy, not really charismatic or like this guy you would put on stage.
Yeah.
But he would have the talent to see what individual manager will contribute to his leadership team and believe it. And he would establish a culture where it's important for us that we're experts. Obviously, it's a consulting org, that we know what we're talking about, that we would always go the extra mile for the customer, but in also would take care of each other. Because consulting obviously is super taxing. You're on the road 4 days a week, and they're away from the family. So basically, we have to take care of each other. We are not the substitute family, or we are the substitute family, but we don't want to substitute the family.
Yeah.
And so he wanted to establish this kind of culture. And but he had an interesting approach. He would always randomly call people in his team. And it was like, I think he had 360 people or something, 360 consultants. So he would randomly call, and then he would like see, oh, Matthias Stark is calling me. So I have to, what does he want? And he didn't want anything except finding out how you're doing. He wouldn't ask you about the customer. He wouldn't ask you about any forecast or any other issues with your team. He would just like, so how's your family doing? You're doing all right, and so on and so forth. So just to give you a background.
Yeah.
So, but still, he is an analytical Excel guy. He has like everything in Excel. He has all the numbers under control and everything. So we're sitting together, and we want to do the planning for the next year, headcount planning, revenue planning, targets, and so on. I expected, because he's such an Excel kind of person, this will take a day or two. This will be complicated. So sitting in the meeting, he's opening up the file, and he has this Excel sheet, and he said, so what's our revenue target? And because consulting is a very linear business where you have like day rates, and then so we just came up with a number. He typed it in, he pushed enter, and then everything filled itself. Headcounts, everything. And then he said, we're done. I said, but Matthias, we can't be done. This is like, I mean, the yearly planning, don't we have to do anything else? And then he says, you know, culture will eat the strategy for breakfast. And that basically means if we can focus on being the expert, going the extra mile, taking care of each other, and making sure we do it, the business will be successful. I don't have any doubt.
Yeah.
The mechanics in the consulting business are very, very linear. So we have that under control. So let's focus on the culture, and the strategy will be fine. And I thought it was quite impressive. So he invested a lot of time in his models were right, his Excel sheet was right, but he spent more time in phoning people, making sure everybody has everything they need, and then they can continue to do their job. And I thought it was quite impressive.
Yeah, I love to hear that. What difference did that make to the way in which you led? It's got this kind of pastoral, nurturing, aspects in the culture that he's trying to create. How did that impact you in terms of the way you were leading your team?
Yeah. So I'm in his team. We are in a big corporation. It's publicly listed. There are processes, HR, everything, lots of politics. And here I am, young father, husband, and we just bought a house. And we wanted to renovate it. It was okay, but it was financially a burden. It was a burden. In that spirit, I wouldn't complain to my boss about it, obviously. I just, hey, we just bought a house, and I would do my job and everything. I think everything was clear. The focus was clear. The priority was clear. In some random moment, my boss is visiting Hamburg. He's pulling me aside and says, hey, Niels, do you have a minute? And says, hey, Niels, I know you are currently building a house. Your husband, your father, I would like to give you a raise. He didn't give it because of performance. He didn't give it to me because it was the time. In corporations, it's always once a year. You have reward check-ins and so on and so forth. He gave me money because he said, if you buy a house, you always need money. That's it. And that impacted me so much. It was not a significant raise, but it really meant something to me. And outside of processes, you need to look after your people.
Yeah.
And if you do so, however that looks like, for some people it will be maybe an increase in money, for some people it will be a training, for the other person it will be, hey, maybe you just take the day off. Just spend time with your wife, or maybe your parents are sick, or whatever it is, and you are just available. The result is, as you can see now, I still talk about it. This is like 15 years ago, and I would have done anything he would have asked me to do.
Sure.
And that's the interesting piece. So if we understand that it's not about, it's sometimes so easy to make people motivated and highly active in their job. But we miss out sometimes the important pieces that really maybe hold them back a little bit.
Yeah, I agree. How fascinating. I love that. Very inspiring. And we got this, definitely a strategic mind. Okay, so you've got this culture eating strategy for breakfast. You're not saying there wasn't a strategy. It's just the prioritization was around creating the right environment that people can thrive to deliver it and bring their best energies into the workplace in what was quite a demanding client environment. Yeah, it's great.
And interesting enough, I've experienced, so over the years now, every year you do your yearly planning. Sometimes you even do it quarterly. So when I worked for Oracle, they would even look at it quarterly and just have a quarterly plan and define the KPIs, how to measure the success against the quarterly target. So very numbers driven and everything. I'm not saying this is wrong. I think it gives you a good identification of, are we on track? Should we adjust? And so on and so forth. But interesting enough is, if you just focus on the numbers, people will not understand why you're doing it. But if you give them, so if the culture is somehow, we want to be the best in class, or we want to really make our customers happy, or in my space, digital transformation is the key for customers to be successful in the long run, and help them to secure their business model, all those kind of things, get their cost structure under control, those kind of things. If we have this mindset of, okay, our culture, we are striving to support our customers to be as successful as possible. To do that, we need to be experts in what we do. We want to go the extra mile, and we want to be happy by doing so. Any KPI framework will support that.
Yes.
It's quite simple. So if you work in a corporation where reorgs are taking place on a very regular basis, where processes are being looked at on a constant basis, if the only way to have a long-term high-performing team in place is if you have the constant of the culture.
Mm.
And I think he established that really well. And I try to follow his lead there, because otherwise it will be difficult.
Yeah. Yeah, I can hear that. Have you had an experience where you've joined an organization and had to help transform the culture, or where the culture was one where once you were in, you realized this isn't for me?
Yes. And then I think it's like, I like the challenge. So we'll see what you can do. The risky piece of it as a manager is if you start to establish a culture of high performance, of changing things, of doing things differently, challenging the status quo, however you would like to call it, does the organization support you as a manager? Or is it just you who's driving the change?
Yes.
And that's probably the main challenge if you are in a global organization and you're not close to headquarters. So, for example, when I live in Germany, when I work for a big corporation, usually the headquarters is in America when you work in the tech industry. So does the headquarter support the change?
Yeah.
Or does the headquarter just want to give an impulse to hope for, I don't know, a good amount of successful quarters, and then we'll see how it goes, and then we get a new impulse. That's also be an option. The risk is, though, if you're driving the change, the company or the people in the team start to identify themselves not with the company, but with the manager. And then if the manager is changing, everything you've built is not sustainable.
Yeah.
And so, I experienced it. To your question, yes, I've seen it. And it happens, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And I think what you're describing, as you did earlier, is that there's, sometimes we can kind of oversimplify what leadership is. And I think this is a good example of just these different tensions and paradoxes, balances. I often talk about kind of balance that you've got. It's not swinging one way or the other. You've got to manage these different situational environments. That adaptability is such a key part of leading, I think. Anyway, I'd love to move on to your third point, because I think there's some more interesting stories to be told here, Niels. I love the way that you're sharing this through your experience. And what's your third lesson that you wish you'd learned earlier?
So, third lesson, be focused on the one. And I have two experiences I would like to share with you. One, unfortunately, I didn't experience with myself, but I know the person who experienced it. So basically, we're talking about Bayern Munich, German football club, which nobody likes except the people in Bayern, in Munich. But they're very successful, obviously.
Absolutely.
And one of my neighbors is a professional football coach. And he's focusing on athletic training and so stuff like this. And so he applied to work for Bayern Munich. It is 2013, and in 2013, Jupp Heynckes is the coach. In Germany, at least, he's a legend.
Yeah.
Really old and really successful. In that year, he won the triple Champions League, and then DFB Pokal, which is your FA Cup, and then the league itself.
Yeah.
And he said that he was invited for the interview, so he flies over to Munich, and he walks up to the site of Bayern Munich, and he meets Jupp for a 10 to 15 minute conversation. It is walking conversation. They're not even sitting down, have like a proper interview. They're just walking. And my neighbor basically says, he literally sucked me in. He literally was focusing just on me. And I don't remember what we were talking about, but I remember because he was Jupp and he was walking on the public space, he was constantly stopped by some footballer, the bus driver, whoever, the manager. And he would always reply the same way. He would say, sorry, I don't have time for you right now because I'm talking to Carsten. And then they walked off, independently of how important they were.
Yeah.
Independently if they were the bus driver or the top striker of the team. And then he got the job. And then he said that the experience he had in the interview, he saw him in his day-to-day life. He would always act like this. So if he would talk to the bus driver, he would also focus on the bus driver and would spend time with him. And then he would walk on. It was that extreme that people in football would claim that he had not a very high level of football expertise, but the emotional quotient, the EQ, was so high that when he would walk into the locker room and would tell them, you need to run faster, they would run faster.
Yeah.
And they would do it. And so if they would be in the Champions League final, he wouldn't even give them an advice how to score better because they're all professionals and there was a major coaching staff, but he would tell them what to do and they would do it for him. They would go the extra mile. They would do anything for Jupp because he would, when he was talking to them, he would 100% focus on them.
Wow.
And I thought it was quite interesting that in that level of professionalism in sports, the difference makes the focus on the one.
Well, it's almost superhuman, that ability to be that present. And I love the way you've described the methodology that he had to deal with the distraction, to deal with interruption. You know, someone obviously that not only was famous, that was grabbing attention, but clearly people needed his time or wanted his opinion on something whilst he was talking to somebody else. His capacity to be able to say, not now, and focus. I love that. I've not heard that story, and I think it's a really good example. Yeah.
So I've experienced something very similar just probably 6 months ago. So I was interviewing for my job at C3AI. I just started in September.
Yes.
And so I was interviewing with Tom Siebel. In the tech industry, he's a legend. He invented enterprise software. He sold a lot of companies and very successful, wealthy billionaire in the tech space. So I'm in a Zoom conference with him. And obviously those kind of people you would just, I wouldn't talk even though it was my job interview. I would just say, hey, Tom, what do you think about this? And then he would just expand and you would just listen. And it was a very valuable, scheduled half an hour. After the half an hour was over, his secretary, his assistant came up and said, hey, Tom, your next appointment is waiting. Yeah, it's fine. I need more time. And she moved on. And so we continue talking. And after a while, 10 minutes or so, we're already over. She comes again. Hey, Tom, your follow-up appointment is waiting. And I could see the people in the back of the camera already queuing up. and he said, no, don't. I'm just talking to Niels right now. This is fine. So she's really hectic, you could see, and is not leaving the room anymore. She's staying in the room. And he's just not, he's so calm. It seems like he's not doing anything. So I'm like, after 45 minutes, I'm just like, okay, hey, Tom, I think the people really need your attention right now. It seems like we should come to a closure. And then he says the following sentence, just like Job in Bayern Munich. He says, Niels, they can wait. This is the most important conversation I have today. And I remember how this made a difference. It completely made a difference. So hopefully I'm trying to do my best here that when I talk to somebody, I'm focused. My phone is gone. I might take notes, of course, but I only take notes on the conversation. And try to be as present as possible so they feel valued, recognized. But then also there's an opportunity to be to come back to the first point, be very specific and clear and crisp about what's next. Yeah. And so I thought it was really cool. I copied that sentence now. So if needed, I will always say that. And I think that's a very cool experience. And it feels really, really nice if you hear it, to be honest.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing. I think it's a really good example. Now, I could carry on this all day. What great stories. And thank you for being so open with your experience, Niels. I know that will be really valuable. It's valuable to me, and I know it will be valuable to others. I'd love to come back. I didn't expect this, but I'd love to come back to the topic of AI. I kind of planted the seed earlier unexpectedly, and now I'm thinking we have spent all of our conversation talking about that human connection and that deep ability to be able to listen and to form genuine concern and relationships with people so that they can deliver some really great outcomes. And it feels, to me at least, on the outside, that AI is perhaps looking to come into that space. And, some of the darker things I read about it is like people, Zuckerberg kind of talking about AI becoming people's friends and genuinely being a part of their friendship group, as an example, rather than it being a human. It's some sort of bot. And that's alarmist, I know, but I would love to hear your take on AI's place in the world when we've spent the best part of 30, 40 minutes talking about the human connection.
It's a good question. And I'm probably biased because I earn money with it.
Yeah, of course.
But I think we need to be realistic here about what AI actually is. I think the big hype came around because of ChatGPT. Before that, we would call AI machine learning or algorithms or predictive simulations or something like this. So I don't want to say it's been around all the time, because it's not true. It's evolving, obviously. But I've been in software discussions where we were simulating certain things in the marketing space in 2004. And we would now call this AI. So I think we have to be a bit more. There's so much we can benefit on regarding automation to avoid mistakes and so on and so forth, simulations, predictions, all those kind of things, which really, really help us and support us. And if we can use that well, it will help us tremendously. I think if we talk about AI, it's about those bots, about ChatGPT, about do I have to actually work again? So my daughter is currently applying to do a exchange here in the States. And she did it all with ChatGPT. So I think the risk is more about, do we know how to produce it, or do we just use it and don't think about it anymore? So there's one risk.
Yeah.
And the second risk about the human interface and human touch, I don't think that this can be replaced, to be honest. And maybe AI should more be a enabler to invest more time in the human touch, as we save time in the technical, logistical stuff where we can benefit from AI or from automation more than we can imagine. So it will be nice, and there will be a robot that will take care of me when I'm an old retired man in an elderly home sometime, I'm pretty sure. But the conversations, the feelings, the interactions, the value that is being shared because people spend time with you cannot be replaced by a non-human touch, I think.
Yeah, I agree. And I think there's something. One of the big learnings from COVID for me is like, it's great we're using technology to have this conversation we wouldn't have been able to have otherwise, of course. But if we are meeting virtually all of the time, there's something not quite the same as getting in a physical room together and seeing the whole person and spending some time with them outside of the rectangle, seeing their feet, and having good conversation that is not directly linked to the purpose of the call. Those kind of things. Now, we can do that virtually, of course, and you're be speaking to the States a lot with people, but there's something about coming into the same location which is so magnifying, so multiplying to the relationship. It's kind of...
to just build upon this, in the current company I work in, where we focus on AI, obviously, we meet once a quarter in the States in headquarters. Everybody flies in.
Yeah.
So seems to be important.
Yeah, it does. That's a good way to end. Niels, thank you so much. As I said earlier, your storytelling is magnificent, and I'm really grateful for you sharing what you have done in such an open way. And I've learned a lot. One of the big takeaways for me today is that ability to be really present in that moment when we're having that important conversation with somebody. And I think I could do much better there, and I'll take that away from this, amongst other things. So thank you for sharing those examples. It's really helpful.
Thanks, Simon. Thanks for the opportunity. It's always good to walk through it and remind yourself again.
Yeah, it's great. Well, I wish you the very best of success in the new position as well, and to see you continue to do well and establishing a really enabling culture there, I'm sure will be part of your task. So thank you, Niels. Much appreciated.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us at the After Dinner Leadership Table, and trust that you've got good value from listening to this episode. Thanks for being here. One question for you. The question is, so what? What will you do with what you've just heard? And here's a few suggestions. Number 1, lead with more purpose. 2, mentor with patience. 3, share with pride. You think of anyone who you know that would benefit from listening to what you've just heard, that would help them to be a better leader today or in the future. Please share, like, subscribe. It helps other people to consume the content. And we wish you all the very best of success. And please listen again to another After Dinner Leadership conversation.